Welcome into another edition of the Pack Therapy Podcast. This one, obviously, it's myself, it's Mike Glennon, and it's all about MJ Morris entering the transfer portal. Pack Pride on it first, but it's since popped up on social media of MJ Morris's family. It's confirmed MJ Morris heading into the transfer portal. My first reaction to it, I have to be honest, Mike, I don't see how this was going to end any other way. I think once you decide to not play games, this was the end. You could pretend like it wasn't going to end this way, but it was always going to end this way with him in the portal.
Yeah, it's not surprising to me. I think the writing was kind of on the wall when he made that decision. There actually is part of me that feels bad for MJ just because I don't know if this was his decision. I don't know what the advice he was getting. I think this is pure speculation that in his mind he was going to be the quarterback at NC State again next year, and he wanted another year to have 3 years to play rather than two, have 3 years of NIL money rather than two. And just seeing some of the things he put on social media lately and all that, it seems like he's kind of going through a bit of tough times, I imagine, if that were the case. So not surprised by it. Curious where he goes, curious where NC State turns next. I guess this next month will be telling of what they want to do, who they want to go after. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
This just shows you can't plan for the quarterback position as a player or as a team for more than like the next week. Like it's a week to week agreement almost. I mean, if you just look around the triangle, right? Riley Leonard from Duke's in the portal. UNC is getting Max Johnson out of the portal to commit to North Carolina. If you go out into the rest of Carolina, Mitch Griffiths, the starter for Wake, he's in the portal, although he didn't have a strong grip on the starting quarterback position. Grayson McCall, Coastal Carolina, he's in the portal. And these are more of the accomplished quarterbacks in the area, in the region. If you're NC State, I mean, there was a point in time where Dave Doeren would look anybody in the eye and say, Brennan Armstrong's the now, MJ Morris is the future, and that's what we're rolling with. I almost don't know if you can call anyone the future in college football at quarterback right now because you don't know if they're going to be there.
Yeah, I was thinking about that this morning, and that I think I might be the last quarterback at NC State that started there and finished there. Like it's crazy. I mean, you go down the list of Jacoby Brissett transferred in from Florida, Ryan Finley transferred in from Boise, Bailey Hawkman came in from Florida State, Devin Leary transferred out to Kentucky, Brennan Armstrong, and now MJ Morris. I mean, and I think it's only going to get worse because back in the days of Jacoby Brissett and Ryan Finley, they either had to graduate or sit out a year. Now, I don't know if we'll ever see a kid get recruited by NC State, sign on signing day, and go through his entire career with NC State. Those days might just be gone, unless it's someone like Drake May that's a first round quarterback. It's just I don't think we're going to see it anymore. And yeah, it's just you don't know what's going to happen and who's going to be on the roster at any given year.
It almost can't go too well or too poorly early in the career. It's got to like the only way we're gonna have like a 4-year starter or even a 4-year member of a team, 5 years if you have the redshirt year, is if they like thread the needle perfectly between nobody's gonna give them $2 million to be a NIL
Right.
quarterback elsewhere, and also they keep their job so they're not leaving to go find a better opportunity. That's just I mean, it's free agency every single offseason at the quarterback position.
I don't know how these coaches have the time to evaluate all these players in the portal. Honestly, probably the quarterback position is a little bit easier. You probably have a list of call it 15 guys we're going to take a look at starting right now if they probably have already started. And they're going to have to determine who fits them the best. And but then it's not even just who fits them the best. It's do we have enough money to pay that guy?
Can
It's
we
almost like
afford
what's
it?
our budget for this player and what it demands? Because if what Matt Rule said is true, that it costs $1 to $2 million for a good quarterback, where does that put us? I mean, what can we afford? It'll be interesting to see. It sounds like there are some good quarterbacks out there, but I think if NIL wasn't a part of it, NC State is very attractive right now because of what we talked about on the episode yesterday with just Doran's track record, with Casey Concepcion, with what Brennan Armstrong, how he finished the year, just the state of the program. It has a lot of momentum, but with NIL, I think we feel good about Savage Wolves and Pack Wolves, but I don't know if those checks are quite the same as what some of these other schools are going to be handing out.
So let's talk about that moving forward, right? Brennan Armstrong, eligibility done. MJ Morris going in the portal. There's Lex Thomas there, who, I mean, he's raw and young, so you wouldn't love for that to be your only option just based on where he's at in his career. No disrespect to the young man. Um, the I like you said, I think NC State for a let me think about this. For like a savvy quarterback in the portal, makes a lot of sense. You brought up a couple names, right? When you look at Brissett, when you look at Finley, these are transfers that came in under Doeren and got their shot at the NFL. Every quarterback in the transfer portal is looking for an opportunity to set themselves up for the next level, to have success, and to have a coach that'll embrace you. Check, like you've seen it happen, right? You also have Casey Concepcion, who's maybe the best freshman wide receiver in the country coming back. That, I mean, as well as anyone, a number one wide receiver helps out a bunch. A team that has won 9 games and maybe 10, depending on the bowl. I think they're attractive, but unless like you said, we love what the pack of wolves and the savage wolves have been able to do, how efficient they've been. Unless they're sitting on a stockpile of money that is much larger than I think they are, you're going to have to appeal to like I say, a savvy guy in the portal who's understanding that going to the right spot, maybe for not the biggest amount of money, could be better for you in the long run rather than chasing the top dollar.
Right. I think that's probably exactly the pitch is, maybe you're not going to make quite, you're going to make good money here. Maybe not quite what some of these other schools are paying, but look, you play well here, you'll have a shot at the NFL, and that's where you make the real money. And just the other thing when you're talking about that my mind went to is, do they go with another like one and done like Brennan Armstrong, or do they go with a player like what MJ Morris is now, where you have 2 or 3 years with the guy? I don't know how if you want to keep living with okay, well we're gonna have to go in the portal next year, but then initially my thought is well, just because a kid's a sophomore or junior doesn't mean he's going to stay again the next year. So it'll be interesting to see who they go after. The first person that came to mind is the kid from Coastal Carolina, just because I
Grayson
believe he's
McCall.
from North Carolina. Coastal's not far away. I don't know if I think he'll be attractive in the portal, but I don't think he's going to be the same as Riley Leonard or the kid from Washington State or maybe even the kid from Mississippi State. He's a guy that might be willing to, come to a school like NC State where he will have success, where he'll have Casey Concepcion and maybe there might be other receivers coming as well. So I'll be curious to see who they go after. There's going to be some good options. I'm sure more are going to be coming, and things seem to be moving quick. The fact that Max Johnson already committed to Carolina pretty much felt like one day in, and I know his is allowed because A&M fired their coach, but
Yep.
this ball could get rolling quick, and I think it's exciting though for NC State fans to have another new quarterback and kind of see who that guy will be.
Another name that's popped up on my social media feed is a guy local to the Triangle, Byron Brown. Apparently doing some big things at USF down there in South Florida. Dual threat guy. I believe he's one of the better statistical freshman quarterbacks in the country. So kind of
I
every
think
time I go ahead.
I've heard that name as well, and I think the interesting tie to that is also, and again, it's just the domino effect, the wild wild west of this is that he's apparently friends with the receiver from Ohio State, Noah Rogers.
Oh,
So
yep.
it's like, get the band back together. Apparently, that Cooley kid is friends with them as well. So yeah, I mean, he could be a good option. Always good to have the local ties. But I'm sure quarterback coach Kurt Roper, Robert and I, Dave Doeren are going to be watching a bunch of film of all these guys and having conversations with them on the phone to see kind of who fits them best.
And last thing we'll talk about here in kind of this emergency pod is the nature of what you said. Um, it the quarterback transfer portal to me has a lot of similarities to when the or it can have a lot of similarities to when college basketball went one and done. And everybody at first was fighting against it. And then a couple of the big programs said, no, we're just gonna have a different team every year, right? We're just gonna bring in 5 one and dones. And it was Kentucky and then it was Duke. They won national championships with it. And they just decided, hey, it's we're okay with having a different plan every year. This year it'll be around these 5 one and done. Next year it'll be around those 4 one and dones. I think Notre Dame might be going that way. Brought in Sam Hartman for a year from Wake. Now they're heavily linked to Riley Leonard, who won't have a ton of eligibility. There might be some teams, and who knows if State ends up being one of them, starting with Brennan Armstrong, that are just saying we're going to try to build the whole team and then place the quarterback there for a year and then try it again next year because bringing in a quarterback and keeping a quarterback is just too much darn work.
It is. It's a lot of work, and it's hard to project the quarterback position. I mean, you don't know how guys are going to translate from high school to college, and a lot of these guys that they're getting are proven. Just relating it to close to home with Brennan Armstrong. Clearly, the guy had a lot of success in college football, and although we struggled last year, we kind of saw the glimpse of what he can be. And I think if you can go find a proven guy, that helps your team so much. I mean, it's obviously the most important position in all sports. So if you have a guy that's proven that you believe in, then you're not kind of working through the development process of going with, say, a redshirt freshman that hasn't really done it. And I think, kind of to your point, is there's no guarantee. The benefit of that is, okay, it's 1 year. We're going to do this again next year if you have that mindset. And what I was saying is, if you bring in a redshirt freshman or sophomore, there's no guarantee that they're going to be back. So you might be doing it anyway. So maybe you do go with just the most proven commodity, and understand that we're just going to be doing this again every single year. I imagine that the coaches want some stability, so you have a guy. So you'd rather have a younger guy than just a one and done guy. But if that's the guy that gives you the best chance the next year, you just go with it.
I just I think of it like I think we can use you and definitely me as an example. Coming out of high school, I think I was 6'3" and a half, 170 pounds or something like that. And if I'm a and by the time I played as a junior, I was 210, right? Like if I'm out of school, I'm going, why would I take the 2 years of roster spot for you to put on 40 pounds when there's no way you're going to be able to play before that? Go somewhere else, right? Get in a college weight room, let them figure all that out. Then once you're 210, I'll swoop in and bring you in, and farm systems almost become of like smaller, like
That yeah,
FCS schools
that's
or
the
schools
other
like go ahead.
the part that I find interesting in the future of this is, it's like recruiting high school quarterbacks is getting less important. So
Mhm.
if you're a high school recruit, do you go to a school, like, I mean, we could just use NC State for an example. Do you go there knowing that they're probably going to find someone else, or do I go to somewhere like Coastal Carolina where I might play, and then I work my way up? It's just I don't know the percentage, but I imagine the percentage of a quarterback starting and finishing at a school is like under 10% now.
That's actually I would assume, right? And you and I both occasionally get the family friend or the friend of a friend asking for advice. They want to play college quarterback. Like, what's the best way to end up the starter at NC State? Go to NC State out of high school or go to somewhere you're going to play more
I
likely
know,
as a freshman and sophomore. And then with the plan that, hey, after your sophomore year, after you ball out for a little bit, then go to NC State. Like, that might be the best way to become an
right?
NC State
It's just
starting
nowhere
quarterback.
near as clear of a path anymore. When we were getting recruited, you kind of looked at the depth chart and what year were those guys, and it's kind of funny looking back now that one of the reasons NC State was attracted to me is because Daniel Evans was going to be a redshirt senior. I thought I would redshirt for a year and then play for 4 years. Where now, as a recruit, you can't predict it at all
Mhm.
what the depth chart's going to look like, particularly at the quarterback position. Other positions are a little easier just because if you're a receiver, you're good, you're going to find your way on the field. But quarterback, there's only one spot, so it's going to be impossible to project what it looks like. I mean, you're kind of on a 1-year contract yourself, and you got to do what's best for you with that one given year, and then figure it out from there.
So let's bring it back to MJ Morris quickly here to wrap it up. Um, I MJ Morris probably looked at the depth chart and said, "I'll sit behind Devin Leary for a year or two, or a year actually, and then I'll be able to take over." And then Devin Leary bounced after his commitment, and he went, "Whoa, okay." Then all right, I'll sit behind Brennan Armstrong for a year, and then like it's just he probably tried to plan a few different times for his NC State future, and it just never ended up being a thing, right? I definitely think he thought coming into this year he would be the starting quarterback for NC State. They went and got Brennan Armstrong, and it almost started the all right, we're making business decisions now. If you're making business decisions, you're going to bring in Brennan Armstrong for a year. I'm gonna make a business decision. I'm gonna sit out, and I'm gonna make a business decision. I'm gonna hit the portal, and now NC State has to make a business decision and go find their next quarterback. It's just it's much more business than it ever was, and State's gonna have to deal with that. Uh, and speaking of business, according to Nicole Auerbach, Tony Gibson spoke with Duke, so they got a whole bunch of fires they need to put out with NC State. That's for another podcast. Mike, we appreciate you for jumping on quickly. Everybody, like and follow Pack Therapy everywhere you can find podcasts, and we'll be back next time there's breaking news. See you.